Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Forest County Bigfoot Festival. Welcome, my name is Mike Famel, and I'm your MC of the night. How's everybody doing today? Awesome. Everybody have a good day with the speakers? Some quality speakers, right? Awesome. Well, we're here. We're all up here now. We're going to do a question and answer with the crowd. So if you guys have any questions for any of the speakers today, you're more than happy to ask your questions now, and we'll get an answer for you. So does anybody have any questions to start the day off? Yeah. Why not? You have a question? Fake question? Okay, that's okay. Fake question. Any other questions? Come on, let's go. We have a, yeah. I'm going to get my exercise today.
Hey, thanks for coming. I missed most of you. Have any of you actually had actual encounters and seen Bigfoot, and care to elaborate on that?
Great question. Thank you. Bill, you want to go first?
Yeah, 2 years ago, in August, I was at Salt Fork State Park down in Ohio, which is supposed to be a hot zone, and I'm like, yeah, I'll never see one there. First night camping, 15 feet away. It was right there, right there. And no, I did not get a picture. Yes, I almost filled my pants. And it was huge. What it was is I'm going down, it's called the Buckeye Trail. And I'm not even 100 yards from the camp. I'm down into the trail. And I kneeled down, I got a scope, I'm going to look way down the trail, see whether I spot anything. Out of the corner of my right eye, I saw a little movement. I turned and looked, and there it was. It was kneeled down, and I guess what I saw was him putting his hand down in front of him. I got big hands, but his hands are a lot bigger than mine. And I'm like, So I stood up, I started backpedaling. It stood up. I could see right by that tree about how tall it was. And I got on back to where a couple of my friends were behind me. And I'm saying, lights? I don't know why I'm saying lights. It was light out. And the one says, yeah, I got to see Bigfoot's rear. I just looked at him, really? All right. Is that better? Yeah. So, we measured up on the tree. But, and Arnold Schwarzenegger had been jealous of the muscle. And that put. Is that better? For now. But that's the journey I'm on now. No, I was already into it. I was a believer at that point. How many of you are believers? I'm not a believer. I'm a knower. After that experience, I'm a knower. But yeah, it got us into it. Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I'm a Squatchaholic. No.
You stole my line.
Yeah, I mean, I've had an experience that took place back in 2014. Some of you were sitting in when I shared that information earlier. But to make a long story short, it took place right after midnight in Virginia. There was a group of 6 of us. And, you know, for those who haven't heard, I'll just cut through on this. Again, it took place after midnight, and it started off with just eye shine. Seeing eye shine, we're not seeing any physical features, no details whatsoever. And, well, to be honest with you, there were 3 of them. It didn't start off as 3. It started off as seeing 1. Then it went to 2, and then after a few more moments, the 3rd one appeared. And there were different sizes. There was about a 4-foot one, a 6-foot one, and then the 8-foot one that we estimated. And all 3 had the same color eye shine, large yellowish looking eyes. And the small one what was interesting about the smallest one, from the moment we seen it up to the third one, it was swinging side to side very swiftly, which was very interesting. Because, in the beginning, we didn't know what we were looking at. We had no clue. As far as I'm speaking for myself on this, when I say the thought of Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever, was not on the mind. I didn't know what we were looking at. And I'm very well familiar and acquainted with much of our wildlife. And everything that we were seeing was just not registering. But until that tallest one made a maneuver, and when that maneuver was made, I guess because of the angle or the position of the lighting that we had from off of our headlamps, it caught the shape of it. Big, broad shoulders with a big, round head on top of it. So, and that particular situation, that was basically all that took place on that. We observed the blinking of the eyes and whatnot, but after seeing that shape, it definitely confirmed it for me. So, but yeah, there's some other minor details I kind of cut on that because there's others here. So, I'm going to pass this over to the next person. But while I'm thinking about it, I do want to throw this up here, right here. My face is on here with a sign, signature. If you guys are curious on checking this out, if you go to the Star Hill Winery, you can check out this bottle of wine right there. They are selling it for $25 a bottle. There's samples available. So, yeah, check it out. Yeah, it is very good. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Diamond Jim Boardwine. I live down in the mountains of Virginia, and my experience when I was 13-year-old. Now, the land that my family lives on down there, we've been on since the 1760s. So we know the land pretty good. And I won't go too much into the story because I talk tomorrow at 12 o'clock if any of y'all want to come out and hear it, but I'll give you a better story. But what happened was me and a friend was out in my backyard playing in the evening, and I just noticed that my horses were acting kind of strange up in the pasture next to the woods. So I went to investigate, and when I found these tracks, I didn't know what it was. I followed them into the woods, and the first thing got my attention was, oh, I got a bad knee, folks. I'm gonna set it back down. The first thing I noticed, I had a full-grown male German Shepherd. Had been raised with me, protecting me against everything. He wasn't afraid of nothing. Well, when I got through the fence, I walked about 15 foot. I looked back, he wouldn't come through the fence. He just walked back and forth whining. He wouldn't come through the fence and follow me. And I'd never seen him act like. I said, Prince, what's the matter with you? When I said that, I could tell something was staring at me. I turned around, looked up the hill about 50 feet, and there stood one under a hemlock pine tree, just watched me. It didn't move, it didn't make any noise. And they say it did. I couldn't see any facial features because it was kind of in the shade. And I tell people I won't swear him down as Bigfoot, but I don't know anybody in Porter Valley, Virginia that's covered with black hair from head to toe like that. So I'm pretty certain about what I've seen. And the one I saw was only about 6 foot tall. I think it's probably a juvenile is what I'm thinking. But when I was, it might have been his mother too. I wasn't gonna say that, but since you brung it up, that's the only one I'd ever heard of for a long time. But when I was researching my book I wrote last year about stories from my region, another man lives right across the ridge from me saw one about 6 foot tall too. So I don't know. I didn't know. I tend to think they were juveniles we've seen. One guy thought maybe they might be like a subspecies that don't get as big as the run-of-the-mill ones you hear about, but that's my experience. I've never seen it again. I've heard it on several occasions, but my son was out there visiting me last winter one night after work, or for a couple nights actually, and he saw it twice. He saw it too, so it's still hanging around. Anyway.
Great. Thank you. Great. Any other questions? Yeah, 1 second. Make sure I don't drop the microphone.
I was just curious, do you, or have you seen orbs, and what's your opinion of them, and do you think there's a correlation to Bigfoot?
I can honestly say they are in correlation with Bigfoot, but the one night, me and several researchers throughout, we heard a nice big howl off in the distance. We're looking over that way, and then off a little bit to the side, 3 orbs show up. Is it because of Bigfoot? projecting energy, I don't know. You know, it's hard to say. You know, some friends of mine are doing research on it now, and when they get more information, I'll put it on my podcast and have it out there. The ones I saw were 3 white ones. Now, friends of mine have seen red ones, so. Okay. What area? In Forest area, yeah. Mine was over in Ohio, and I had some reports over here, too.
And I agree. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As far as like orbs in general, you know, a lot of them are debunkable. But are they related to Bigfoot? Some of them, I don't know if they're related to Bigfoot, but it seems like there are some that's, you know, in areas where there's Bigfoot sightings. I never had a sighting of one ever until 2 years ago. I did an investigation down in Randolph County in West Virginia. I went on this guy's property. Well, it was actually a neighboring property, but this guy took me around where he had his sighting. We talked, we interviewed him, and his neighbor let me stay in his field, which was like pretty close by to where his sighting was. And I had an old van, and I'm sitting in this van, and I'm watching the field and stuff, and it, like, the way I was sitting, there was the fence line ran in front of me, then it ran behind me, and in the corner there was a little tiny pond in the corner. So I'm sitting in my seat, listening, because they say they hear howls there and stuff all the time. I turn because I see something out of the corner of my eye, at like say this is 12 o'clock when I'm looking straight out the window. At 9 o'clock, I see this out of the corner of my eye, and it's a little white ball that's floating near that pond about, I don't know, close to 100 yards away. And from that distance, it looked like the size of a softball. And it didn't emit light. It was a white glow. It was just a white ball. And it went across that pond, kind of disappeared for a minute, and then come up, and it was again floating along the fence line and disappeared. The gentleman that I interviewed said he's never seen anything like that, never heard anybody else talking about it. Even the Bigfoot, he claims what he saw, he said, I won't say it's Bigfoot, but he said, I don't know what it could have been. So I interviewed, or just asked the neighbor that owned the land, I said, have you ever seen strange lights on your property? And he's like, oh, no. So a couple days later, he calls me and says, hey, this is the landowner. He said, I've never seen lights. He said, but in that area, I had something strange happen. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, my brother and I were working on that fence, and he said, you know the property across from ours, there's an old cabin sitting there. And I'm like, yeah. And you can clearly see this cabin. All the undergrowth's off. This was during the fall. And the only things left is just big oak trees. And he's like, we're working on the fence, and I look up because something catches my eye, and I see out from behind one of those oak trees, like if he's facing this way, the oak tree's here, cabin's here, and then on. He said, I see this thing lean out from behind the tree and then go back. He said, I'm trying to figure out what it is. And I asked him, I said, was it Bigfoot? He said, I don't really know. He said, I didn't see any features, but he said, this thing leans out from behind the tree. And he was probably about 20, 30 yards, not very far away from it. And he said, I sat there and watched the tree, and he said, nothing ever moved. He said, and then 2 minutes later, catches out of his eye on the other side of the cabin, it leans back out from another tree. He did not see anything go from one tree to the next. And whether, like I said, I don't know, he doesn't know if that was Bigfoot or not, or a Bigfoot or what it was, but it was pretty interesting that those lights that Bigfoot encounter the guy had just pretty close, and those strange signs all happened in one spot. The other time I ever had an orb sighting, I guess you'd call it, I was actually in Ohio. I was actually near Minerva, Ohio. Anybody know where Minerva is? Minerva Monster and all that stuff. I was on a friend's property there. We was actually shooting a small YouTube documentary, and the owner, the lady that's my friend, is sitting on the porch of her cabin, and the video producer is actually standing. And I look up, and again there was a pond. There was a pond in the bottom of the lake, or bottom of the over the hill. I look up and I see this red light in the tree, and I'm like, "Hey, you guys see that?" Well, Seth looks down at the pond. He didn't see it, and Heather was up on the porch, couldn't see it. I was like, and I moved, and when I moved, it either moved or was gone. But I lost the vantage on it, but yeah, that was the only time I've ever seen it. But as far as being connected, I'm not sure. But it's pretty interesting that there's out there, and there's even lore it talks about, and like German lore talks about the lady in white orbs with small hairy men that follow along with the orbs. So that's pretty interesting.
Thank you, Les. Do you have anything on the orbs?
So in all the reports that I've taken, there is some sort of correlation. What it is, we don't know. As they said, there are areas where they have hot spots where orbs are sighted and there's Bigfoot activity. I've come across reports where it talks about orbs floating into thick brush and then a Bigfoot popping out on the other side and running away. I've got reports, like I mentioned earlier, of a Bigfoot actually carrying an orb in its hands like a light source and was able to extinguish it. So there is some reports coming in. A lot of researchers won't take those reports, or they'll kind of scrub them and clean them, so you don't hear about a lot of that kind of stuff. There is a very big national organization that researches Bigfoot, if you get my meaning on it. They've had a TV show. They never found anything. And if you read their reports, they're pretty sanitized, and that's where I first started my research, was reading their reports. And I didn't believe in any of the orbs and any of this other paranormal stuff that happened along with the Bigfoot sightings. But then I talked to some people that with the organization or old researchers with them, and they said, man, you don't realize how many reports come in with this other strange phenomenon that happens, whether it's orbs, whether it's poltergeist activity, all different kinds of stuff that happens along with Bigfoot or in the same area as the Bigfoot reports happen. So there is some kind of correlation there, but as far as how exactly tied in, we just don't know. We don't have enough data on that yet to really go with it.
And I'll agree with him. I have friends that are in that same organization he's talking about, and they told me the same thing. They'll take the reports, and a lot of these researchers will keep those reports on their own, but the organization doesn't want them put out there. Yeah, they do take reports like that.
Thank you, guys. Okay, another question? Yeah.
All right. If you guys have definitively believe that you have seen a Bigfoot, why do you believe there's such skepticism? You believe that it's a government cover-up or anything? Care to elaborate on that?
Anybody want to take that?
Wait, I'm going to ask you to repeat that a little bit as far as what exactly are you asking?
Do you believe that you've seen that there hasn't been definitive proof yet?
Oh, okay.
Or why there's such cover up, or it's just they're just so
Well, a lot of us believe that the government probably does know, but that's a lot of us. It's kind of a touchy subject to really kind of get into that, but because we don't have proof, or we don't have proof that the government does know something, but we believe that there's that possibility. The way I look at it as far as why hasn't the evidence or the proof been put out there, one of the things I made mention earlier, and it depends on how you view this, Sasquatch. I mean, let me point out another one that I mentioned earlier. As far as another species, I brought up the spotted owl that was discovered back in the 60s and later in the 80s and up into the early 90s. When that species was discovered, it went on the endangered species list. This is out in Washington State. And what happened when that occurred, the logging industry came to its halt. It came to a dead stop. And that was a big part of the economy out west. And that put a hurting on the economy. It put people out of work. Like I said, they had to put that on the endangered species list. So just imagine if something like a Sasquatch, a humanoid, bipedal, hairy subject living out there that was discovered and put out there publicly for the whole world to know. There's, like I mentioned earlier also, there's legal procedures I believe that would take place or would have to take place. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there were, say, this is Bigfoot here and we found him. Now what are we going to do with him? We got to protect him. He lives in the woods. So, all right, and then apart from that, there's all kinds of other things that can follow as far as the fear of people. The government, why would we say Bigfoot exists? Just like the mountain lions. If the government admitted that, well, you do have governments in, if you do have mountain lions in your state, if the public became fully aware of that, right, does that make sense? Like where a lot of people the fear factor would play a big key role in why all kinds of disasters and chaos would take place. Yeah, they said that in Virginia too, yeah. Yeah, I've heard a story from a retired game department, a DNR guy. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, he gave me a bunch of BS. Everything he told me, I just listened to him. He was full of whatever. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, they're trained to tell you these things. These are things they tell you. So I'm sorry, I know I'm taking it away.
That's good. I'll get to you right. Next question. Yes.
And first off, thanks guys for coming here, man. It's been a wealth of information. This is not so much, it's this. In this age that we have now of viral videos, everybody chasing clout, how does that affect what you do, and how does that hurt your credibility because of the nonsense that's put out there?
Good question. Who wants to take that one? That was a good.
Yeah, that's one of my pet peeves right now. I'm very logical when I look at things, very scientific minded, and it hurts. It hurts so bad. We're getting on these Facebook pages. Daniel and I communicate a lot about some of this stuff. There's so much garbage getting put out there, so much crap getting put out there, and the problem is the masses want to believe it, and you can't dissuade them from it, right? I've gotten into some arguments with people about known issues, okay? How many of you have ever heard of Xana over in Russia? Okay? Xana was supposedly a Bigfoot creature captured in this village. She was taken captive in a pen, held in a cage. The local men would get drunk and have their way with her. She had babies, all this kind of crazy stuff with it, right? It was for the longest time believed that Xana was what they call an Alma, which is the Siberian Russian version of a Bigfoot. More caveman-like, much more slender in stature, not big and bulky, okay? For the longest time, this is what it was believed, and that's what people will tell you. A while back, they did a study, and they were actually able to get DNA from her descendants. And they also found out where she was buried and confirmed that the bones that they got were from her by testing against her ancestors, and they did discover her bones. And so they did DNA sequencing on all this stuff. What they found out is that Xana was actually a sub-Saharan African. Okay? She was more than likely an escaped slave that did not speak any of the native languages, and so according to them, she was rough, she was coarse-haired, all these different features that they really hadn't experienced before. She was fully human. Fully human, just not a human they had ever experienced before. I still have people online arguing and saying they're gonna DNA test her, they're gonna do this. This happened 10 years ago when they finalized the story about what happened. You know, I'm personal friends with one of the guys that was leading the research on it, and he was hoping to finally prove that Xana was an Alma. And even he came out and said the science shows that she was fully human. So there is no mystery there, mystery solved. People to this day are only doing half the research and stopping there. Why? To keep the mystery alive. To bring themselves some notoriety, to bring themselves some attention. And it hurts feel for us because that's old hat. We're not even looking at that kind of stuff anymore. Okay? There's groups out there now, and here's the big trend, and I speak against this every time I come across it. You're not allowed to say anything negative about somebody's pictures or somebody's story or somebody's event. Have you guys seen that anywhere? It's all over social media. It's all over YouTube. If you say anything against this person's picture or this person's claim, they just kick you from the group. We need critical thinking in this field. If we're going to move it forward and we're going to get some understanding about what's happening, we cannot accept anything and everything everybody says. We have to have a litmus test. We have to be able to run it through our personal knowledge, the things we've experienced. And if I don't know, I can call up somebody like Daniel and say, hey, Daniel, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? We have to be critical. I have seen so many claims out there. And the big one now, like I was talking to my presentation earlier, is the cloaked images. And it's like, oh, well, if you can't see it, you're just not special like we are. And I've been told that. Like, listen, you have a good picture of some bushes and some sunlight coming through. You can't say there's anything there because we can't see it. Oh, well, us special people can see it. Well, I got some special words for you too, you know? So it really hinders us. It hinders our research. It hinders us going forward. And frankly, it gets tiresome. I've talked to a few guys today say, I don't even do social media anymore because it's tiresome. You're always getting in fights and redefending stuff and going over stuff that people are coming in and claiming that's already been like put to the side as not essential to the work that we're doing. So it definitely impacts us.
And now it's the whole AI stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody now is putting out these pictures as all artificial intelligent, images. And people are, as soon as they're coming out, these bandwagons are jumping on. Oh, you see, this is proof. This is proof. And you can even tell them, you can show them the proof of where it come from. They still don't want to listen. So that's the new thing's gonna make it a lot harder here pretty soon, or it already is.
They even have like watermarks on them that say AI generated in the bottom corner. They're not even looking at that.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question, I think, over here first. Here you go, sir.
Is it working? Yeah. Yeah, I'd just like your opinion on something. I was hunting last year. And I had like a 45-minute walk out of the woods. I've been hunting for 50 years. As I was walking out, I had to use my GPS and my compass. And I had waypoints marked on the GPS. Waypoint beep, lift up with my compass, and it was a fallen tree. On the top of that fallen tree, I heard this roar, roar, screaming for seemed like for about five seconds at least. My wife showed me a YouTube video. It was exactly what a mountain lion sounds like. I didn't know what else to do. I yelled, I'm a man. And then I saw like the bushes moved, whatever it was went to the ground and screamed again. I went back, I had to turn my back on it. Scariest like 100 yards I ever walked. Went back to the camp, told my brother about it. Okay, we're hunting the next day. I'm in a tree stand on the same place. I ain't going back there. And I hear this knock, like you guys talk about. I've heard trees fall in the woods. They crackle when they go down. This was like the whack. I jumped, some nerves. I looked back, didn't think nothing of it. I'm coming back to talk to my brother. I said, did you hear that knock on that tree? He said it was about 100 yards below me, and then another one about 100 yards above me, and he said it smelled like dead meat for about 5 minutes. The only other thing I'm going to say is, for those 3 or 4 day period, every deer in the woods was up by the road. Question, was it a Bigfoot, a mountain lion? Neither was exist in Pennsylvania. Was it both, or was it by imagination twice?
Good question.
Well, real quick, you mentioned how the wildlife, the deer were up by the road. Just what that makes me think of, in Virginia, there was an incident where a buddy of mine responded or was contacted by a fellow farmer who he's a Mennonite, has a big farm, a lot of cattle. Well, anyway, he responded to an incident where he noticed there was the cattle in the field were all gathered together in one spot. This is what your story is kind of reminding me of. Well, my buddy went up there to check on what was going on. Well, they drove out into the field. The farm owner first was out there, and he noticed over in the corner, he saw it with his own eyes. There was a mountain lion over in the far corner by the tree line. And my buddy came up there later to actually investigate it and check it out. But they found the tracks and everything. It confirmed that there was a large cat there. But I believe that's a good possibility that there may have been a cat I mean, if Bigfoot was involved, it's hard to say. We don't know, but but yeah, that's what made me think of that. I wanted to share that back with you.
You have any other questions back there? I'm going to try to find my way back to you. It's okay. We're good. We're good. Here you go, sir.
This isn't really a question, but what kind it is. We was up here in Buzzard Swamps hunting last year for coyotes at nighttime, and we were running our call, and we had a knock, and we had something call back, but it wasn't a coyote. But if you can see that box on that telephone pole right there, we had eyes that shined with our red lights, but whenever I turned my thermal on and I put my thermal on it, there was nothing there. Can they hide from thermal?
That's a good question. I'm going to take that real quick. Personally, I don't think they could hide from thermal. I think they're a biological creature. So you might have experienced orbs or something like that. It could have been 2 orbs. Does anybody else want to take that? Good. Okay. What could it have been? Can Bigfoot hide for thermal? Yeah, I think he might have saw 2 orbs though instead. Good question. Any other questions do we have? Yeah, right here. I'm sorry. We'll get you.
You guys, people are asking about the people are doing the like DNA and stuff and getting samples of hair and stuff. A fellow was here last year. His name is Todd, and he has Bigfoot New York Todd on his channel on the what do you call it on YouTube. Thank you, guys. Well, anyways. I hang around with Todd. He comes down here. We have a hot spot here like 5 miles away. This guy has Bigfoot hair. He has Bigfoot hair with Bigfoot meat on it, where this thing stumbled into a fence and left major chunks of meat behind. If you go on his YouTube channel, he shows you how he collects it and everything. We've been at several Bigfoot festivals and seminars. Dr. Todd Meldrum, we even offered it to him. Nobody wants to touch it. Everybody says, whoa, you got DNA to touch or to test. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to test it. If you give it to them, they'll sign you have to sign a paper saying that you relinquish all rights to this stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's out there. You just can't get it tested. He even said, I talked to him just a few minutes ago, he says it's so expensive, nobody wants to touch it. So we got some proof, maybe, but with no place to get it tested at.
Mr. Rigby?
I was up there at Todd's in February. And yes, we got hair samples. We found out, yeah, there he is. We found tracks. We found a lot of signs up in Todd's area. Only problem was it was 19 degrees out. So I didn't like being out there too much. But me and Todd was out there. Todd does have, scat, he has hairs, I can't believe he has that freezer got scat in it, but he does. Yeah, you guys were just here not that long ago. Yeah, no, I wasn't there. Mary went. Yeah, I wasn't there. Yeah. Yeah, so he has a lot of the evidence, but it's just trying to get it tested. $10,000. Who's going to put that out there? So there's the problem.
Yes, sir.
Given all this data that's been given here today and yesterday, I'm just curious, how do you gentlemen feel is going to be the best way forward in order to reconcile the negative press that the scientific crowd is presenting, so that this becomes more of a actual believed reality other than what they say is just hearsay? And so what can we do? My question is, what would be the best way to present evidence that they could not refute? Would it be a skeletal remains, a dead body? And if so, if it would be, and then the other part of my question is there a certain faction of people that are out there hunting squatches to kill them just for that fact?
Here's the thing. You know, Dan's East Coast Bigfoot Research, West Virginia, on Pennsylvania, Ohio, we share information. And that is the only way it's all going to get out there. We collaborate, we share the information with each other so we can figure everything out. The scientific community, I know some professors, they believe they won't speak up. They'll lose their position at the universities, quote unquote. So the scientific community is going to be very hard pressed to get on the believable side. We, as researchers, gotta stick together, share the information, and that's how everyone's going to learn.
Well, yeah, exactly what Bill said. As far as working together, collaborating, and sharing details and information, the whole Bigfoot phenomenon with the research involved, it's like a big giant puzzle where we're all gathering these pieces. We got to look at where they're going to go. Now, again, with what Bill touched on, the scientific community, a lot of them will not bother. Now, there are some involved that I know personally. More specific, there's ones that are involved with universities. I'm not going to mention the universities because there's private projects that are involving or including primatologists and other biologists. I'm getting tongue-tied on it. But I will say this project involved a late wildlife biologist. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar or remember Dr. John Bindernagel. I had a lot of respect for him. He's one of my mentors that I've always followed. But Dr. John Bindernagel, he was involved with this project before he passed away. And I will tell you, science is getting involved, but they're being cautious about it as well. There's protocols that are in place. And with one of the university professors, they did share some information. And with the protocols, they're actually basic things that for us researchers to start following, things that steps that we could take to where we can start presenting things in a more professional manner. I mean, all of this as we go, as long as we've been involved, some of us been involved for many, many years, but we're still learning. There's a lot of these steps, there's a lot that's being presented. So I just believe in a matter of time that maybe somewhere down the line, something would be presented where it might be more carefully considered, more openly. But yeah, as far as with the evidence and everything that we have today, science they're going to hold back. They're going to be very objective. With the other professors out in the Pacific Northwest that are involved, they're going to limit what they put out there for you because Bigfoot sells. So, you know, that's my opinion.
This kind of goes back to what the gentleman said earlier about why there's so much skepticism to it. Well, the plain truth is there's so many narrow-minded people in the world, they just don't want to believe nothing. They wouldn't pay a nickel to see an ain't need a bale of hay, and they sure ain't going to believe there's a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness Monster or anything else out there. But there's been too many credible people seen this stuff. You know, it ain't like everybody's drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon and hollering, oh, hell yeah, I've seen it, you know, but there's been some reputable people out there seeing these things. And it's there, and maybe there is a government cover-up that don't want us to know about this stuff yet for some reason. But there's just a lot of people, too, the accepted history and science we have, they don't want to change that for no reason. And this would definitely change the accepted stuff we've been taught all these years. So that's my thoughts on it.
what type of evidence would they have to? It would have to be science right now would needs to unfortunately have a dead body to be able to classify a species of primates. Any other questions? Okay, let me get to you in 1 second. Next. Coming around.
I have two things. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I've been reading and researching for a while, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on their ability to cloak by lowering their energy frequency and raising their frequencies. And also, I know for a fact the military, the government, and the scientists, and the Forest Service, anybody affiliated with the government is being threatened with their jobs and or their lives if they say anything about this. And that's why they're not coming out and saying anything. This has been known for years. They're just covering it up, and they're real good at it, and the government just tells you what they want you to believe.
Thank you for that. Yep. Does anybody want to speak on the government? Yep.
I ain't scared of no government. I'm good. So, actually, the where my research is taking me right now is I am actually researching what I call vibrational theory, and it exactly has to do with what you're talking about, where it talks about the frequencies and vibrations of creatures. Everything in our world has a frequency. Everything vibrates. Okay, this is middle school science, right? The states of matter are based on the frequency of the atoms, how fast they vibrate, how closely they vibrate together, what the vibration patterns are. Solid, liquid, gas is all based on frequency and vibration, okay? It is known that we have limits to our range, upper and lower limits of what we can perceive as humans. We can only see colors within a certain spectrum, right? We can only hear within a certain spectrum. What if, and this is where I postulate my theories go, what if these are creatures that are able to regulate their own personal vibrations? Whether intentionally or instinctually, what if there's the possibility that they can raise during times of fear as part of their flight or fight response, they can raise their frequencies to the point where we're not able to observe them anymore. They're still there. We just are not able to perceive them because their frequency level is above where we can perceive them. That is scientific fact that can happen. There are things that we cannot see, hear, observe because they're not within our realm of perception. That is proven scientific fact. Okay? So what I postulate is the fact that these creatures are within a realm that they can either intentionally or instinctually or just automatically as part of their natural responses vibrate themselves to a point where we cannot perceive them. That is my personal belief on it. I have no proof of that yet, but Ron Moorhead does touch on that in his Quantum Bigfoot book. And I think this is the new thought process going forward, that we need to look at these types of scientific advances and apply them to the fields that we research and see how it applies. So I think that is a genuine possibility.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Do we have any other questions? One over here.
If the end game is definitive proof of Bigfoot, whether it be paranormal, flesh and blood, or a combination of both, then what? You get it, then what?
Great question. Who wants to take it? Once we get the evidence of a biological Bigfoot or a physical Bigfoot, what's the end game? What happens?
I personally think it'll be covered up if it comes to that anytime soon, because there are, as one of the boys mentioned earlier, there are some scientists out there investigating some DNA stuff they have found and proved it's from an unknown animal that nothing we've encountered before. But mainstream science does not want to recognize it. And so until you have one walk across the stage on national television and we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that is Bigfoot, we're not got somebody in a suit or something, I think it'll still be hard put to believe it's true.
Sure.
Okay, I'm very much into the paranormal. I watch way too much of it, but I think, like, my question to any of you is, what do you think about the interdimensional theory, where Bigfoot is some kind of primate that can come in and out of other dimensions?
The interdimensional Bigfoot.
All I'm going to say, my group, Agents of the Unexplained, okay? No, he's very unexplainable. No, but seriously, with my group, we've been studying that and researching it. It's highly possible. We still don't know yet. You know, the Bigfoot I saw, I swear, was flesh and blood, okay? So, did it jump through a portal? I didn't see it. Did it just disappear? No, it went down over a hill. My butt was running backwards. And let me tell you, an old man can run backwards without falling down. Might not be able to go up airplane steps and not fall down, but seriously, we don't know yet. We're still in the infancy of that, you know, and we are studying that big time right now. And the thing he touched on with the vibrations, me and a couple friends are working with that. So yeah, there's a lot going on with all that.
So when I get asked that question, the first thing I ask them is, what do you mean by interdimensional? Okay, right? So then we have to ask, what is a dimension, right? So to me, those are words that are, we're trying to describe something that we don't understand what it is, okay? So what is a dimension? Is it a time-space loop? Is it a parallel universe? Is it just another realm that we can't perceive? What is a different dimension, right? So we can't even quantify that. So to say if they're interdimensional, we can't even quantify what it means to be interdimensional. Does that make sense? Okay. In that aspect, I have heard people with reports of portals. I have seen a video, and this is a house surveillance video that they put around their property where a bright light suddenly appeared and these creatures were walking around it, in and out of it, and you could see them going back and forth. Okay? Saw this with my own eyes. Can I say it's 100% real video? I cannot. I wasn't there. I didn't take the pictures. But I saw the video, and then I saw daytime pictures of where it was, and it was simply pointing off into the woods of this person's property. Okay? The reports are out there of this phenomenon. We do not yet have the capacity to be able to research that. We don't have the tools. We don't have the scientific instruments to be able to research those things. But the reports are there of that happening in a lot of different areas, a lot of different ways. And if we're going to be honest as researchers, even if we don't believe it, we have to take those stories and put them into our catalog. And as we accumulate the stories, again, we can kind of start seeing trends and kind of see what's going on and hold on to them. Because that piece of the puzzle, like Daniel was talking about, might be the next one to click in place, and now we have the data to look at it and kind of continue forward with it.
Any other questions? Do we have any more questions from the audience? Sorry. Got my 6.
What happens to Bigfoot's bones and body when he dies?
That is one of my favorite questions. Who wants to take that one? Yeah, okay. What happens to the Bigfoot body when they die? So Bigfoot lives, Bigfoot reports come from areas of high acidity soil readings, right? So generally speaking, Bigfoot areas have high soil acidity ratings, which is going to decompose a body very quickly. On top of that, you have scavengers and predators like porcupines, which eat bones. People don't realize that. In the correct circumstances, I could go from you and me talking to me being completely decomposed on the ground in a matter of like 3 weeks. So people say, well, where are the bones? They come up to me, and all the time hunters will come up and say, I've never found Bigfoot bones. Where are they? And I will ask, have any hunters in here? How many hunters do we have in here? I'm sure if you, has anybody found a bear skeleton? No. We know there's bear out here though, right? That's what when people ask me where are the bones, that's what I say is where are the bear bones. Any other questions? Yeah, Danny.
Just one short question. Have any of you ever witnessed or seen a portal open or shut? I know I have, and I have proof. I've watched it right in front of me, and the guy was beside me freaked out. I told him it only lasts for so long, and then The scenery goes right back to where it's supposed to be. The path reappears, the whole 9 yards. Have you ever seen one of these? I've seen it on several occasions opened.
Has anybody ever experienced a portal opening? You got a story? Let's do it.
See, this is the benefits of being an armchair researcher, as people like to say, for people like me that I call archival researchers. I have a gentleman who's a good friend of mine. Part of his research team, they were dealing with portals and such. Again, I cannot attest to the veracity of these. I was not there. I did not experience it. I always put that as a caveat. But this man, for me, is above reproach. I trust him. I trust his research, and I trust what he tells me. I do not believe he lies to me. Plus, he showed me videos, and I've known him for many, many years. Him and his research team are currently researching portals and the natural phenomenon of portals. A member of his team himself and I want to say a military personnel, but I'm not going to say a military personnel person was with them. They experienced a portal. The military person entered the portal, and his research partner and himself got close to the portal. Okay? Within a few weeks, the military person died of cancer. Within a few more months, my friend and his research partner both got gravely ill. Unfortunately, she died. She had a reoccurrence of cancer that had been in remission for many, many years. He developed sudden congenital or heart failure and heart issues. Thankfully, after a few months of treatment, he did survive. Okay? That really happened. I know the young lady personally that passed away. She was a good friend of mine. I know this guy. I was there with him when he got sick because I also have heart failure and heart issues. So he contacted me to kind of help him talk through it. I don't know what portals are. People are experiencing them. Okay, you're not the only one out there to ever experience one, okay? And that's the one of the biggest thing I tell people is you're not crazy. People all over this country, all over this world are experiencing the same stuff. We just can't explain it yet. But they are out there and it does happen.
We got a couple more minutes left. Time for a few more questions. Yeah. Scoochie. Oh, well, for everybody else.
I'm sorry if this is really complicated, but I'm so curious now. What is the passion that drives you to do what you do? And what do you want the outcome to be? Why do you do it? What do you want to come from it? And if you do have an encounter, like Penn, Ohio had an encounter, do you want to try to communicate with Bigfoot? Like, that is what I would want to do. I'd want to, like, chat with Bigfoot or get to know them, whatever. It for real, like, not kidding, like, seriously, right? Like, I love animals, I love people, so I would want to know that kind of thing. So do you have that, but you were so afraid, and you went the other way, and Bigfoot went the other way. So, like, am I making sense what I'm saying? So, okay, talk to me.
Talk to her. Les?
Mine's just basically to have answers. You know, I've not seen or experienced anything. I mean, yeah, mainly for me. I'm not out to prove anything to anybody else. But I've had people, I've talked to like hundreds of people that's had these encounters and sightings, and I guess I'm just trying to find answers for them as well, and myself. I'm not sure. I don't care if I really see one, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not out there to see one. I just like to find some answers to questions that people have asked me. That's basically what I'm looking for.
After seeing mine, I'm in this really deep rabbit hole now to find out why they do what they do, how they're doing it. You know, I like to be Jane Goodall, the Bigfoot, tell you the truth, to live amongst them and to study them, because it's so fascinating now with all the things that we're learning. And believe me, and I said about the infancy of the research. We're still in the infancy of the whole thing. And we're learning more every day. But to be able to be in there and study them, I'd love to be one of the ones to be able to do that. That's why I spent so much time in the woods. Being that close, yes. A little farther away, no.
It's personal. Now, my thoughts on it is I want to know the truth. I don't care if I'm talking about Bigfoot, if I'm talking about men on the moon, or I'm talking about history. I want the truth. I don't want Hollywood's version of it like they're trying to change stuff on us right now. I don't want, when I'm out teaching history at festivals, I tell people that they'll say, well, I've never heard that before. I'll say, okay, good. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Hollywood's word for it. Go research for yourself. And that's why I am. I want to know the truth. I want to know what really happened or what's happening now. I don't want some jackleg up here telling me, oh, well, you know, this happened and that happened. We know good and well it didn't. It was wrong. Don't try to change history. Don't try to change the truth to us. We're big kids. We can take the truth.
Yeah, and for me, for my end game too, is I just want to know what's out in the woods. For me, my experience, I'm speaking tomorrow at 1, and you'll hear more of my story, but I had rocks thrown at me in North Florida, and I just want to know what's out there personally and what threw rocks at me in North Florida. That's the end game for me, yeah. Another...
Hey, listen. Armchair researchers, come on, again, we're important. I'm just a nerd, is what it boils down to. I'm a very curious person. I love mystery. I love strange phenomenons. And honestly, if Bigfoot's discovered and we know what he is, I'm moving on to something else, right? Because for me, it's about the mystery. It's about the search. It's about the research. That's what it is for me. I don't have an end game for it. I like to read and do my research and then share what I find with other people.
That's okay. That was good. That was a good question. Coming around.
Are any of you guys actively working with any First Nations elders?
First Nation elders? Yes.
I have friends that are shaman in their respective tribes, and they have helped me out. One is a Cherokee, one's Blackfoot, one's Apache. And they have really helped me to understand a lot of the stuff I've discovered and wondered about, you know, that tell me from the native view of the thing and stuff. So that has really helped me to get the natives' point of view from it. Now, I can't say, yes, I'm part of the board out there with the nations, you know, but I do have connections to different native societies that are helping me with my research and my own experience with it.
I just want to say something else. I'm not on that subject. This fella right here keeps saying armchair researcher. And you know, there are researchers out there that have a big ego, and they think fellows like him are just it's just, you know, not part of the whole deal. But without people like him, you know, without people like Daniel, Bill, all of us, sharing everything, whether it's that type of research or whether it's on the ground, boots on the ground research, which I do both. And a lot of time it's sitting back looking at history or historical accounts and stuff like that. If you don't do that, you're not doing your due diligence, because you can take them historical accounts and stuff like that, or strange accounts, like you said, put those together, put the historical accounts, you can kind of start seeing a trend into the spots where these things might be. Or, you know, the strange might be something completely different than what some people are seeing, you know. And if you don't take those accounts and separate them, or not, you know, keep them separated, but kind of keep them close to each other, we'll never know if they are separate or not. Or maybe, you know, maybe there's a connection, and maybe one day down the road it will come. But, you know, this armchair researcher, I think, you know, I hate to hear that. I mean, you know, you know, people like him are just as important as anybody else that's on the ground.
I got to say one more thing. He's boots on the ground armchair, and library, and computer, and he digs. So if you want to learn anything from researching, check out Les. No lie. Armchair, I got 3 of them. That helps me. And I swear by them, because I hate computers. I really do. And they do the armchair work for me. So it helps.
Thanks, guys. Okay, another question. I think we have time for one more question. Coming back here over the beautiful dog.
She's enjoying Bigfoot questions too. Her name's Xana, by the way. I heard him talking about Xana. But my question was, is Bigfoot regional? Is there certain places in the United States? Is he in other countries? Where all has he been sighted?
Great question. Where has Bigfoot been sighted?
Yeah, real quick, I'll make mention that, like, for those who sat in on my presentation earlier, there was names where he's known in all different parts of the world. Bigfoot is a worldwide phenomenon in Asia, North and South America. So, but yeah, in some other countries like Indonesia, and China and whatnot, yeah, there are smaller species. But here in North America, they vary from east to west. So, yeah.
And one other thing, there's only one continent in this whole world a Bigfoot has not been spotted. Hawaii.
Bill, that's a state. That's a state. Only continent is Antarctica. Only state is Hawaii. Not seen by a Bigfoot. Guys, thank you guys very much. My name is Mike Famila. I'm seeing you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thank you guys to the speakers today and everybody that came up. Thank you guys for asking so many wonderful questions. Here's Dave.
All right, guys, thanks for coming out. We've had a fantastic crowd here today. The traffic people estimated that there's been 10,000 people here today. That's an awesome turnout. Traffic was backed up 15 miles down the road coming into town on 2 roads. We really appreciate your support and your turnout here. Come out tomorrow. We have a couple other speakers. We're going to have a band. We're going to announce the winner of the Bigfoot hunt, and just appreciate all the support. And one other thing, just stand up, turn around, and turn your chairs around and enjoy the band.